Hola Felipe, how you doing? It's Andrew again. So in this recording, what we're going to do tonight is try to shorten your sentences. I've got this open in a doc so that I can actually make edits on screen. What I'll do, I'll pause the video occasionally to have a think, and then I'll express a sentence in the way that I think it should be expressed most efficiently. What I'll try and do is give you an idea of how precision works, how using a word that has a more precise meaning results in fewer words used overall. So first things first, I'm just going to start with your first paragraph. So the first correction, the collocation is fast-paced. Make sure that has the D on the end. A fast-paced, changing world. So here I have shortened this to the ability to innovate is becoming increasingly valued by our rapidly changing world. So the reason I did that, this here, fast-paced, I get it, but I think what we're trying to refer to is the rate of change, and fast-paced changing doesn't quite do that. This describes the world quite well, but innovation is relevant to rapid change that is increasing. So, and the next sentence I've shortened to traditional schooling does not fully prepare children for the future by neglecting their creativity. Or we could even do the other way around. By neglecting their creativity, traditional schooling does not fully prepare children for the future. To neglect is to not pay full attention to. If you neglect a child, you did not pay them enough attention. By switching to the use of that word, we eliminate all of the stuff about not allowing children, because this not allowing is a negative sentence. So what it creates this additional word essentially that we don't need. So if we can always try to switch negative sentences into positive sentences, what does it do rather than what does it not do? So by neglecting their creativity, what does it do? And then we can go into what it doesn't do as a result. Traditional schooling does not fully prepare children for the future. So a couple of more additions to this first paragraph now that it's finished. Let's give it a format. So I've completely removed that last sentence, just because you've already got 3 sentences in your intro, and if you have a fourth, it just feels a bit too long. So we don't need the generic sentence at the end, because we've already got 3 decent sentences here. So what's our next job? Now we've introduced our ideas, we need to consider our body paragraphs. So we're going to have 2 distinct ideas expressed in about 4 sentences each. So your first idea is this idea that just by telling children what we already know, we do not encourage them to innovate. And I feel that's true. You know, that's a compelling argument. It forces me to consider it. But in the second sentence, you then talk about teachers' egos, which to me is completely irrelevant. This bit here, reducing a child's ability to create, what we're essentially talking about is limiting their perspective, reducing the size of their world, making it rigid. You know, so there is all these words, these abstract, that we can use to describe the abstract world of a child's ability to learn. So let's have a think. I mean, I really like this first sentence, but I think so what I've done here is I've just altered this argument slightly, because I think that referring to teachers' egos is too subjective. Remember, if you're backing up your statement with your example statement, it really should be true to real life. It should be something that that at least has credibility. Something that when you say, when you give your, I suppose, opinion statement, then your example needs to back it up, and it needs to be believable. People need to think, cool, it's a compelling argument. Because remember, even though IELTS is an English language exam, it is an academic writing exam as well. So they are actually testing your ability to make clear arguments. So, traditional schooling limits a child's ability to see beyond what has been established. Great sentence. If the truth is prescribed, that means given. A doctor prescribes medicine. If the truth is prescribed, curiosity is reduced. That's a very simple but very effective sentence. I tried to write a sentence with as few words as possible that still had a lot of information in it. So what this does, it expands our idea. It sets up what we're about to say. We've already made the blanket statement, and now we expand a little bit, and then studies have shown that humans, especially the young, will believe an authority figure over 90% of the time, regardless of the factual content of the information. So this alludes to the fact that if a teacher says it, the children just believe it, and then that's the truth being prescribed. So that if the truth is prescribed, curiosity is reduced. So thus it is clear that traditional schooling can reduce a child's urge to create or discover. Well, actually, let's use a great word there. Diminish. To diminish, to reduce over time, to reduce to nothing. So now we have two slightly neater looking paragraphs. Here is the next paragraph you wrote, and I'm just going to do the same again. I'm just going to give it a good whiz over. Here we go. So I've left this one mostly alone. One good thing I've noticed actually is, once again, your grammar is pretty good. I'm having to correct very, very little of it. But what I've done here, I've added you a little semicolon. Semicolon can be used. It is halfway between a full stop and a comma. It's like a half breath. So it can be used when you have two complete sentences. They have to be full and complete, but related. And you must never start with a conjunction here. So if you find yourself putting this or this, that's wrong. Two complete standalone sentences that are related may be separated by a semi-comma so that it doesn't feel quite so separate. But some additional stuff that I've put in here. So you launch an initiative. A series of initiatives have been launched to improve education. One of the predominant methods is experiential education, in which the teacher acts as a facilitator. Diverse studies conducted by the International Education Institute recently demonstrated that this particular approach increases IQ in children by 15%. I think we should actually say there, on average. It is therefore clear that alternative approaches could revolutionize, tell you what, actually, our education system. So there is your next paragraph. Three rather nice looking paragraphs. Now let's see if we can write ourselves a banging conclusion. Okay, so we have the whole thing here. And I've added a few extra bits. I've decided as well that on the therefore and thus statements, we should have expanded a little bit more. So I've added by. It is clear that traditional schooling can diminish a child's urge to create or discover by informing them that facts are rigid and concrete instead of ever-changing. I believe that in the modern world, technology, science, and so forth, that facts and reason are fluid and changing, and they're not necessarily rigid and concrete. But also then, it is therefore clear that alternative approaches could revolutionize our education system with relatively simple alterations. Now that I've done all of this editing, this is still beneath the word count. It's 226 words. So what that tells me is that there was a lot of extra words. And I'm not saying that you were just putting in extra words, but I think there's a temptation sometimes to try to hit the word count instead of trying to answer the question. So in future, really think about how to argue your point, because I mean, you haven't copied the question in here, and I'm not familiar with this question, so I can't see whether it asked for your opinion or not, and even though you did give it, because you're saying, you state that quite clearly, that traditional schooling does not fully prepare children for the future. If your opinion is stated in a slightly more traditional manner, then it gives you the scope to use a slightly longer sentence there. But, one sec. So I added a little bit more there, actually. As we can see, I've added aimed at creating future generations of great thinkers. So I've aimed to expand sentences wherever I can, but with explanation and not adjectives. So rather than adding additional descriptive words, add additional information, and then communicate that information efficiently. So we're only ever trying to communicate the relevant ideas as efficiently as possible. So this is your task 1. Let's have a read. I made a reservation several months ago to visit your restaurant. Good. I booked one of your VIP tables with an ocean view for this occasion. My plan was to ask my girlfriend to marry me, which is something that I couldn't do because of the poor service I received. Cool. So what I would do here already is say, I would expand on this to include your feelings on the matter, because what you're complaining about here is that you have suffered a grievance. Something has happened to you, so you need to communicate how that made you feel or what negative effect it had. So if we do this, entire trip was wasted. This gives a little bit more, more of a sense of the loss that occurred. Why am I complaining? What did I lose? People complain because they lost something, even if it was just an expectation. But what we need to address is why they are complaining. When I arrived, I was told that my table had been taken. The only one available, semicolon, nice. The only one available was was located under the stairs. Under the stairs, next to the toilets. I had no choice but to take it. When the wine was served, the waiter tripped and dropped half of the bottle on my trousers. As much as I tried to clean them, I actually think the word is stank, but I also think it's an ugly word. So, as much as I tried to clean them, I smelled of alcohol the entire night. Bit more of a formal complaint. I stank of alcohol or I stank generally. It's a bit informal, it's a bit of an ugly word. It suggests that you're getting a bit too emotional in your complaint. So let's bring it down a bit, and because this is a reasonable complaint, you know. If someone makes you smell of alcohol all night, that can affect your reputation, your social standing, so this is a reasonable complaint. My girlfriend ended up feeling sick with a combination, I'd say, of the smell from my pants. We can use pants this time, that's fine. The smell from my pants, and I see why you were saying smells now. Okay, smells from both my pants and the nearby toilet. There we go, that's what you meant. So we ended up leaving before the food was even served. Adds a bit more of an emphasis because it's literally stated, we ended up leaving before the food was served, which is a statement of fact. But if you're speaking in a complaining manner, you would probably say, we ended up leaving before the food was even served. You're talking about an unmet expectation. It's kind of similar to the way that in Spanish you would use ya to add emotional emphasis. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but I have an internationally recognized blog about restaurant experiences. Oh, threatening. I would like to be compensated for this bad experience with a free dinner for two in your most exclusive table. At your most exclusive table. We sit at a table, not in a table. Perhaps, if you do things right this time, I may write a positive review of Little China. Regards, Peter Thompson. I actually think that's great now. No problems whatsoever. What I'll do is I will share this document with you, as well as the video correction, so you can get a good see of the whole thing. I will also, one sec, if you like, you can add comments to this document and we can work on it together. But I will share this with you very shortly. But I hope that that's given you some ideas. What I would suggest to focus on is the phrasings that I've used, but also keeping the arguments clear. Don't forget that we are arguing. We're making an argument. We are trying to state a case. So it's very important that our argument remains convincing and it flows all the way through. That everything you talk about in your intro is explored here and concluded here. That every single one of your paragraphs represents only one idea that has been mentioned in your intro, and in order to express that idea, you go general, you go specific, you back it up, and you tell everybody what it means. But it must all be about that same idea. So, have a good read, and I'm sure I will speak to you again very, very shortly. Speak soon, Felipe. Good luck.